I don't.
You wouldn't let me back in. Personally.
Well, I'm glad to see you here.
The jokes.
I've heard about you so much. I'm not sure we've actually met. I've seen you at events. I'm not sure we've actually met. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Yes, you'll stay there in the middle. Yeah. Yeah.
So I'll put the X on.
Sorry. On the 4th of December, 19. Okay. So, yes, a lot's changed. Nothing's changed.
Everything on your way?
Well, we got the infrastructure protected a little bit place. Right.
Do you need a copy of it?
Down there. I mean, I only want to put it
You know, working on the color board. I'm gonna put
I didn't know.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Johnny Evans. I'm the Provost and Vice President for Academic Affairs here. Just going to get us started. Thank you for coming out to see the work of these students and faculty and what they have done. It is an example of the excellence that the College of Coastal Georgia provides, and it's what we do here. I bring greetings on behalf of our president, Michelle Johnston. She regrets that she couldn't be here today. She's, in fact, been called to Atlanta for a meeting. She's probably on the plane right now, I would suspect. So she's headed to Atlanta for a meeting, but she'd much rather be here. But she's headed up there, has an opportunity to meet with the new chancellor tomorrow. So she's up there doing that. You're going to get to see the best of our students tonight and their work, and so we appreciate you coming out and supporting them, and hope you enjoy this experience.
So I'm sure you have a program, and we're could start off at the low point and work our way up, or we can start at the top and work our way down. We chose we chose to start at the very top with Scott Williamson, and he's retired after 25 years at Coca-Cola, Vice President of Public Affairs and Communications. He is a high-paid consultant. We could not afford him. The co-op could not afford him, but you have him for free tonight. So we will take advantage of all the marketing expertise and communications that he has gained over these years. One of the most talented individuals I think we have at the college, Scott Williamson. Will you welcome him?
Thanks, Uncle Bill.
You're welcome.
Hi, everybody. So, could the client raise their hand? Who are the clients? Who would all this work for? Are they here tonight?
Marty, Shrepper,
All right. Thanks.
yeah, and C. Grant is here.
Hi, you're welcome.
Thank
welcome,
you.
Bill. Yeah, my welcome to that of Johnny and Professor Garland. I just want to make a couple of points, and I'll ask the indulgence of the students who have been in enough of my classes, most of you, where you've heard me say the same 3 or 4 things all the time. Right? I only have like 3 or 4 things, really, points. And that's because marketing and communications aren't all that hard. They're just complex, right? They're sort of subtleties, things you have to sort of figure out. So I want to tell you a quick story, and that story begins with me being asked by Professor Garland to come and sort of talk to the students pretty early on, as I recall, in the timeline of when you were sort of taking on this work for the entrepreneurship class. And so they were walking me through all of the different sort of things they were going to do and some of the early work that they had already done, some of their discoveries. And I was immediately struck by 2 of the sort of 3 or 4 points that I always tell them. So what I told them, I'm going to tell you now, is very early on, and just some coaching that I gave them. The first point that I told them around the marketing aspects of what you're going to see is the following: that there is what? No power in sameness.
Only in differentiation.
There is only power in differentiation, right? What makes a brand a great brand is that it is differentiated from everything else. If it's not differentiated, it becomes a commodity, right? So there's no power in sameness, there's only power in differentiation. The second point is that everyone, regardless of who they are, how old they are, where they come from, loves a good story. You think about it, from the time that you were a small child, before you could read and write, you enjoyed having books read to you. Mom, dad, uncle, aunt, brothers, sisters, grandparents. You enjoyed being told stories. So the trick in marketing is to differentiate yourself through a really good story. There is no great brand in the history of commerce that exists without benefit of a great story. Some of them immediately come to mind. 2 Steves, Wozniak and Jobs, working in their 20s in a garage to create what would become the first Apple computer. Phil Knight and Bill Bowerman in Bill Bowerman's kitchen, pouring rubber into his wife's waffle iron to create what would become a sneaker called a waffle trainer that would launch Nike into the stratosphere. And one that's near and dear to my heart, a pharmacist in downtown Atlanta, over time, finding just the right ingredients, all of them secret, combining them in such a way with a little carbonated water, he could sell it as a brain tonic and call it Coca-Cola. There is no brand that exists without a great story. So as we started to talk about where this thing could go that they were going to work on, that's what I encouraged them to sort of think about. What is the story that can build brand? So what I'm interested in hearing tonight from these folks is all of the stuff they did, some of which is going to be really, really complex and complicated in numbers and things, and I looked at it and I said, wow, I'm glad we have these students here because I don't understand. This is really complicated, but they do. But at the end of the day, what will make it or break it is the ability to tell a great story about what we think is a really great brand. Thank you. Good luck.
Just so everybody knows, we are streaming live on One Meeting Notes. We do have viewers watching presently, so it's not just the people here, but we had so many requests about, I can't get there, can you stream it? So it is being captured for video. And once again, Scott, the first time that he walked in the room and we looked at the story, that I buy into that. So that's his differentiation is the story, because shrimp swimming in the waters, as we learned in God's oceans, shrimp swimming in the waters off the coast of Georgia don't have a license plate that says where they're from. Mm-hmm. So somehow or the other, Scott has led the class to where we developed not only what appears to be a logo, but it's not. It's just simply a temporary symbol for the Fisher Folk brand for the Gullah Geechee Shrimp and Cooperative. Let me introduce to you now. Let me say this. This is all about the students tonight, and I'm immensely proud of these young folks. This has been one of the most enjoyable classes that I've had in 10 years, and they have worked hard to find out the information that they're going to share with you tonight. And the feasibility study will be published on a number of sites, including, I think, the Lucas Center. Possibly you'll have access to it there. But for all the work was done by them. They deserve all the credit. The program now is in their hands. The study is in their hands. So let me introduce to you the moderators for the evening, and that is Ronnie Hanson and Bowen Riddle. You give them a hand.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Professor Williamson, for that introduction. Before we get started, I want to take a moment to thank a few other individuals, Mr. Marty, anybody over there at God's Oceans. That was a huge help. Of course, the shrimp boat captains for bringing this to our attention and making this opportunity possible. Dr. Garland for helping us so much along the way, and for anybody else who's been involved.
Also, thank you for this extraordinary experience. As students, it is not every day you get to have the chance to take part in making such a difference in the community. Once again, thank you. And now welcome our introduction and executive summary with Antonia and Kelsey.
According to my research, the Gullah Geechee are one of the oldest African American cultures in America. In the beginning, they were slave descendants brought over to cultivate rice fields within our coastal wetlands. With them, they brought their rich African culture filled with music, food, art, and craftsmanship. Along with their many cultural attributes, they have found a place in the fishing, shrimping, and crabbing industry. Their timeless devotion for upholding their culture has strengthened the bond they have with their land. Today, the Gullah population is over 700,000 and no longer limited by the geographical or externally imposed social boundaries. Shrimp is a household commodity that many of us eat and many of us love, especially here on the coast. Shrimp has been harvested for over 2,000 years. It was first introduced to America in the 17th century and has since continued to thrive into the multi-billion-dollar industry that is today. The foundation of the shrimping industry is made up of families from diverse cultural backgrounds and walks of life, including the Gullah Geechee. The shrimp industry has evolved and prospered over time, with immigrant families being the backbone and advancements in technology being the building blocks. It not only has provided income for generations, but has cultivated new jobs and opportunities. With it, it has created a sense of prosperity.
now that Kelsey has given an introduction of the Gullah Geechee people, I want to state the sole reason that we're all gathered here today. 4 captains of Gullah Geechee descent are determined to form a shrimping cooperative right here along the coast of Georgia. They believe that the formation of the cooperative will help to sustain the Gullah Geechee people's shrimping tradition, which has been practiced for centuries. They also believe that the co-op will provide great financial stability amongst the Gullah Geechee people for generations to come. My class and I were given the honor of conducting a feasibility study for the potential venture. And there are 5 key areas within our study that we'll be sharing with you today. Each area equally determines the feasibility of the shrimping cooperative as a whole. The first key area is shrimping as a commercial venture. In this area, we will explore the value of the shrimping industry and the barriers that take place within the market. The second key area is organization and management. We will be discussing the workforce surrounding the co-op and how to improve working conditions in this section. Area 3 is all about transportation and management, or transportation equipment costs. We will discuss the equipment needed for the venture and how much is estimated to cost. Area 4 addresses the sales projections. We will share the expected pricing of the shrimp, as well as our estimated yearly sales projections for the co-op. And last but not least, we will cover the finances and willingness to pay, which is all about the market for shrimp and the willingness for consumers to pay for it.
Thank you very much, Kelsey, and very much, Antonia. Next up, to discuss shrimping as a commercial venture, we have Cameron Cook and Larry Hart.
Check. Oh, there we go. All right. So my name's Cam. This is my partner Larry. He worked with me during this study. Let's see. So valuing the shrimp industry. One of the most purchased seafood in the industry is shrimp. South Carolina is home to 3 species from brown shrimp, white shrimp, and pink shrimp. Over 2.1 billion in sales. 13,868 jobs. However, we learned there's 90% of the shrimp is imported. During our study, we found out China, Thailand, Canada, Indonesia, Vietnam, Ecuador all contribute to the industry. Barriers in the market, main barriers of finance, not only initial investment, a lot, but the upkeep on the boat, that's a lot as well. Labor's high turnover with employees, deckhands, hard to find good deckhands that stay around. Newer generation is not really getting into it as much as the older generation does, like did back in the day. The raising fuel prices, oil, also impact the industry as well.
During the shrimp off season, it is best to get other products in different areas when you are fishing, because that's when more money come in. And also, one of the distributors we speak to on the phone said they peel and bang the shrimp all in one house.
Thank you, gentlemen, for that. I welcome up here Cody Jarbo and Alex Tapp for organizational structure and staffing.
Cooperatives are people-centered enterprises owned, controlled, ran by, and for its members to realize their common economic, social, cultural, and aspirations. Cooperatives bring people together in democratic and equal ways. Whether it's the customers, employees, or in this case, the captains, they will be democratically managed by the number, one member, one vote. A recent fishing cooperative was acquired by Bryan County in 2020 for $3.25 million. co-op was successful, contributing over $5 million to the county's economy. The similarities with the Bryan County's Fisherman Co-op insinuates a potential for success for the Gullah-Geechee fish folk. As you can see, we have a visualization for the two-factor theory. Certain factors in a workplace influence job satisfaction while others influence job dissatisfaction. I'm going to let my partner talk about that.
So using Herzberg's two-factor theory will allow the cooperative to change environmental factors that affect turnover. Some satisfiers the co-op can change include personal growth, opportunities for advancement, and salary. Turnover can stem from many different issues. Working on a shrimp boat generates a whole new set of issues. The physical workspace and conditions come with the territory. However, the cooperative can offer competitive wages and opportunities to grow within the cooperative. This will create sustainable careers that foster high retention. Cost is also a major factor when it comes to new businesses. The cooperative needs to generate enough in revenues to be able to sustain additional staffing positions. They have 3 cost options. Low cost, which would be recent graduates, medium cost, which would be retirees, and high cost, those looking for a career change. And a very important player that could benefit the co-op is CPAC. They are a seafood industry leader and are at the co-op's fingertips. With proper networking and large catches, CPAC can provide the cooperative with many resources.
Thank you very much, Cody, and thank you very much, Alex. Next up, to kind of get down into the guts of it a little bit, we have the Jalen's, as like to be called, Jalen Hill and Jalen Smallwood.
Hello, I'm Jalen Hill.
And I'm Jalen Smallwood.
And our area was transportation and equipment. Having a reliable source of transportation is very crucial in the shrimping process. They will need a 90-foot freezer boat and ice boat to properly store and refrigerate the shrimp. The freezer and ice boat will range from $3.1 to $3.2 million for a brand new boat, and for a used boat, it will range from $700,000 to $800,000. The fishermen are going to be out for a trip for a total of 20 to 22 days, which is typically 3 weeks. The fuel needed for just one shrimping trip will cost around $18,000 alone just in fuel. The engine oil will cost approximately $300 a piece and another $300 for oil filters. The fuel is only one aspect of the boat that makes transportation easier. The up-to-date equipment needed for the boat is the most important part.
Okay, so here are the costs we found in our study. These are about an average. It's not a high or low, but this is about average right here. For the nets, there is some regulations that they do have to go through. Like for the nets, we do need a turtle excluder device, which helps to protect the turtles and also maximize the amount of shrimp that we can catch in a net. So we do love turtles. And also we do have, you have to have shrimp nets that do fit a bycatch reduction device, which will help the fish to escape just in case they do get caught over shrimping. They're also, and before they do throw the nets overboard, they do tie special knots into the nets so they can catch the shrimp, but that's just part of the process. Another cost is electronics, and that consists of radio, computers, deionizers. The ionizers are helpful because they help to dissolve the ionic salts and minerals from a solution. We also do need, we also are going to need salt and groceries, which is around about $2,500, and salt's going to be $160. We did find in our study that the total came out to be $88,858. That's a rough estimate. That's what we found in our study. And as far as maintenance goes for the boats, it usually runs around, for average per year, it's 10% of the cost of the boat. So if the boat's $1 million, then the maintenance cost should be $100,000. So.
Thank you to both of the Jalens for breaking that down for us. Up next for product and sales, we have Bowen Riddle and Drew Stafford.
Thank you very much, Ronnie. Our contribution to the feasibility study was to formulate sales projections for the co-op. So before we get started, we want to give you guys a few things to think about. All these projections were based directly on conversations that we had with the captains of the co-op, local shrimp processors, and also information from the Georgia Sea Grant program. And all these projections are conservative estimates, and of course, they have the potential to vary year to year. These projections are also based on one fiscal year, or one full shrimping season, which typically lasts 9 to 10 months.
So in the upcoming slides, you'll see numbers such as 22, 25, and 31, 35. This is an indication of the count of the shrimp, which is how much shrimp is in a single pound. The higher the number, the smaller the shrimp. This is a pretty large factor in determining the price that they're going to get for the shrimp they catch. Another major factor in determining what the captains receive for their product is if they have the heads on or heads off. Now, they do have to take the heads off on boat. The processors won't do that, and it's pretty labor and time expensive. But, you know, if they want to do that, they do have the option. Due to the shrimp processing practices, we expect there is no real difference in fresh versus frozen with the way they're doing it, which is I2F, which is individually quick frozen. Pretty much has the same, get a better flavor and texture. It's almost identical to fresh.
One key factor in any shrimp boat fleet is the kinds of boats that you have, and there are two major kinds. You have freezer boats and ice boats. The one here on the left is an example of a freezer boat. Those boats are much larger. They can be anywhere from 70 to 100 feet and can stay out for 3 weeks at a time. The boat on the right is called an ice boat. The main difference between those two, if you're on a freezer boat, they freeze them on board. And if you're on an ice boat, they just put their catch on ice. So they can't stay out as long because they're gonna have to come in and get more ice. The reason that's important for us is that some of these numbers will be much lower than other boats, and that's because some of them are ice boats and some of them are freezer boats. Now, before we get on, to our next slide here, there are a few important things to discuss. So these projections were based on an average price, or an average price that we got from local processors. Of course, it might vary, and that was combined with the average catch per captain. Of course, that can vary too, but we're very confident in the estimates that we have. These projections are not based on a previous year's actual catch. These are projections that we feel confident that the captains can bring in over the next several years.
So in these next couple of slides, we're going to look at 2 of the 5 boats. The other boats are contained in the document if you want to look at those. So Captain Chris Johnson provided us with an estimate that he's going to catch about 50,000 pounds per trip, and he's going on about 1 trip a month, which equates to 10 trips a year. So we have broke this chart graph down into 2 of the biggest factors in determining the price: heads and tails. So on the left, we've got what they would make if they were to just spend the entire month, year, with just heads on, not selling any tails. And then on the right, we have the projected revenue if they sold strictly tails. So the important part of here is the bottom part, with the average revenue split 50-50 heads and tails. So the captains have expressed that they are willing and able to sell both, and there's probably an average that will be typically sold about 50-50. So our revenue figures were calculated by taking into account that the smaller shrimp which are the 31 to 50 for heads on and 50, 60 for tails, are going to be caught for about a third of the year on average, and that the bigger shrimp, the smaller count, are going to be caught for about the other 2/3 of the year. And what this gives us for monthly is about $117,000, and for yearly about 1.1 million.
So this graph, as well as all the other graphs included on our study, show numbers that were calculated in the exact same way that Drew just described. What I touched on earlier, though, is that this is an ice boat. Obviously, the monthly and yearly revenue will be much less, but it's still a vital part to the co-op. Because of the less labor and less crew that it takes, it's very important to have those in the fleet as well.
So these are yearly projections for the entire co-op, so all of these numbers are for all of the projected boats that we're going to have combined, with the same formula that we use to find the per boat monthly and yearly revenue with 50-50 split. So for heads on, if they were to sell strictly heads on all of the ships, you're going to probably get a lower number, and that's going to be about $2 million. If they were to sell strictly tails all year throughout all of the boats, they'll be making about $3.2 million. And if we average it 50-50 split heads and tails, they're going to be making about $2.6 million. So you're, yeah.
Okay, so after all the numbers and all the nitty-gritty, we have a few final remarks. Keep in mind that these are conservative estimates. The opportunities exist for these captains to get much higher rates for their shrimp, and they do believe that's possible in the future. With the constant high demand of seafood, especially shrimp, we also believe that these projections will hold for the next 1 to 3 years. And keep in mind these projections may change due to unforeseen mechanical issues or other problems, but how we have it laid out, it'll be easy to deduct that from the total yearly revenue and gain a new number. In short, the opportunity exists for this co-op to bring in millions of dollars each and every year. And we have faith in the skills of the captains and their expertise that they'll bring in every dollar, if not more. Thank you. And next up, to discuss economic and consumer considerations, we have Rebecca Bohart, Miana Davis, Ronnie Hansen, and Keith Sanders.
So what exactly is willingness to pay? In short, it's the maximum price a customer is willing to pay for a good. Our research found that the seafood industry is relied on by billions of people for their main source of protein, and that shrimp is one of the top seafoods sold and eaten in 2022. We have also found that with demand, people are willing to pay anywhere from $19 to $24 for wild shrimp. This willingness to pay could be easily translated to the high quality of shrimp caught by the Gullah Geechee fishing folk.
So I have 4 charts here that's going to distinguish the differences between the willingness to pay for farm shrimp and wild caught shrimp. As you can see here, out of 100 people, 90% are willing to pay $11.49 for farm shrimp. For my wild shrimp, you have, if not the same, but a little more, you have 92% of people who are willing to pay $19.99 for wild caught shrimp. This here is what we would call the price point. Now you may ask, why do we have people that want to pay more for wild caught shrimp than farm shrimp? Well, these are the 3 differences that I'm going to discuss that would make people want to purchase wild caught shrimp more than farm shrimp. You have price, quality, and safety. You might ask, well, what are the difference between wild shrimp and farm shrimp? Wild caught shrimp are caught in their natural habitat by fishermen, as farm shrimp are raised on a shrimp farm. Wild products are more natural and more healthy than farm shrimp. There's a few reasons for the price difference. Wild shrimp are thoroughly inspected and regulated by the government. This will require more care and more money spent when catching wild shrimp. Farm shrimp are imported from overseas with almost little to no regulation. Even the shrimp farms in the United States can often produce larger amount of shrimps due to the antibiotic use and other artificial methods. Second is quality. Farm-raised shrimp are often exposed to unnatural diets and chemicals. Unlike wild-caught shrimp, this would affect the flavor of farm shrimp. For example, wild shrimp consume a more fresh and more natural diet than farm shrimp. Last would be safety. Second is quality. Farm-raised shrimp are more exposed to unnatural diets and chemicals, unlike wild shrimp, and this would affect the flavor of the farm shrimp. Wild shrimp consume a more natural diet, of course, than farm shrimp. Lastly is safety differences. Thanks to technology, today consumers are more aware of their health more than ever. This concern is particularly targeted by food safety. Today, food contains more supplements than ever. The scary part is humans have not consumed these supplements long enough to know the real toll that they take on their body. Some farm-raised shrimp swim in their own waste and diseases, and this is done to maximize profit. To fight the disease, the shrimps are fed antibiotics that are ultimately consumed by customers. Fortunately, wild-caught shrimp are not exposed to an excessive amount of chemicals and enhancers as they swim freely in clean bays and oceans.
As you can see from this chart sourced from the Yandel Sea Grant Study of 2016, shrimp is the second highest bought seafood in farmers markets. You may ask why. Shrimp is relatively low in calories, as 3 ounces rounds about 84 calories total. Shrimp is also high in calcium, iron, magnesium, potassium, zinc, all the good stuff. Shrimp provides 59% of your daily value for B12 in one serving. Shrimp is considered to be more healthy than previously thought by experts. Research finds that shrimp promotes heart health, supports a healthy pregnancy, helps maintain weight loss, may benefit brain health, and strengthen bones. With all of this in mind, shrimp is a top choice for healthy, conscious individuals.
So finally, we have a table from God's Ocean showing us the prices that they would be willing to pay for the different sizes of shrimp with their heads on versus with their tails. So the one on the left is going to be the minimum prices they would pay, and the one on the right is the maximum prices they would pay. Now, as we've talked, people want their shrimp. And it's not just here. In fact, the further you get away from the coast, the demand for shrimp actually grows. So in cities like Atlanta, people will pay close to $15, $20 per pound of shrimp, which is crazy. Now, so people want their shrimp, but they also want this story.
Thank you very much for my team and their wonderful information about shrimp. For our closing summary, I'd like to call back to the stage Antonia Bashir.
At this point in the presentation, I'm sure you're all tired of hearing about numbers. We have concluded that this venture will be expensive. But I believe that any investment worthwhile is going to be expensive. I can't think of a better investment to make than investing in the sustainability of a tradition that has spanned for hundreds of years now. And I can't think of a better investment to make than investing in the financial stability of people with such rich history in a spirit of hard work and determination. The amount of determination that these captains share is enough to make this venture possible for not only themselves, but for the future of the Gullah Geechee shrimping community for generations to come. When Bowman was gathering data for the sales projections, he asked Captain Abner, how likely do you think it is that you will hit 10 shrimping trips in a year? And Mr. Abner's response was, well, I'm gonna hit these 10 trips this year, and I'll do whatever it takes. That was a prime example of the determination and the fire behind this cooperative. This cooperative is not just another business venture. It's much deeper than that. The story behind it is a major key for the success of the co-op. I would argue that the branding of the Fisher Folk Co-op is the most important part. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a marketing major. I have learned that when it comes to marketing, there is great power in differentiation. And if this is the case, then this cooperative is truly a force to be reckoned with. We have given you the facts, and we have given you the numbers. Now it's up to the captains of the venture to make this venture possible. And my class and I have all agreed that they are more than capable of making this happen, and we hope to see it happen. Thank you.
That almost got me to tears. Thank you for that. That was really beautiful.
And for some closing remarks, bringing up Miss Andi like Gandhi, she likes to be called. And she's from the Lucas Center of Entrepreneurship here.
That was a really tough act to follow. Beautiful presentation and incredible work by our entrepreneurship class. I'm proud of you guys. From the beginning of the semester, you started with very little information and you dug in your heels and found everything that you needed to figure out whether or not this co-op could happen. And not only that, you were able to find the story and the possibility where you weren't given that at the beginning. And that's what entrepreneurship is all about. It's about solving problems in a creative way for a specific group of stakeholders. Do you all feel like you did that in this course? Yes. I think so too. I've always thought that there are a lot of ingredients for successful entrepreneurship, and for the captains, as you go into this new venture and decide whether the co-op is something that makes sense for you based on the information that the students have been able to find, I would just ask you to think about some of those ingredients that they've been able to share today. The first is passion, purpose, perseverance, and most importantly, a plan. And from the stories that I've heard about the types of endeavors that and the types of passion that you have about your culture and the sustainability of that, I know that the passion is there. I've heard stories like Antonia shared with us about perseverance and your willingness to make sure that nothing will get in your way. I know that you have a purpose in preserving culture and creating legacy, and I'm excited that our students have been able to start you off with a solid plan to help make this co-op possible. So with that, I would love to thank the class for their hard work. I would also love to thank our processors who are here today for your support of our students. Letting them visit God's Ocean processing plant was a huge piece of their success. So thank you for that, Marty. our students. It's inspiring, and it has created a wonderful experience for them this semester. Thank you. And of course to C Grant for providing so much information, statistics and data, and helping make all of this possible. We appreciate you too. And last but not least, Professor Bill Garland. Thank you for your hard work in bringing this all together, sleepless nights, in making sure it all happens. What do you guys think? Shall we thank him too? All right. I'm sure there are more people to thank, but I am going to give you guys some time for question and answer with the students. So students, if you can come up to take the stage for questions.
Just you guys mentioned CPAC, but you didn't mention King and Francis here tonight.
Thank you, King and Prince. Do we have anybody who would like to go first with their questions?
Questions, complaints, comments, or
We take
whatever
everything.
thoughts you may have.
2 questions. Can you explain to me? I'll shout.
Yeah.
You want to shout? Could you explain to me the benefits for the individual captains of being a cooperative as opposed to being individual captains? And then my second question was, did you look at diversification for those captains? They shrimp for 10 months of the year. What do they do on the other 2 months? Are there other things they could do during the 10 months that could add value to their product?
Sure. I'll talk for your second question first. So, with where all the captains are in the co-op right now, they're still good at repairs for some of the ships. Some are still in the process of purchasing boats. And we believe that as of right now, all of the capital, all the money, all the time, energy should be put into shrimping. After they get their feet under themselves, optimistically in the first couple of years, that possibility does exist, yes. But for the time being, we don't have the spare capital or the spare money, we believe, to focus on other ways to generate revenue at the moment. Again, can you repeat that first question?
May you repeat your question?
First question was just if you could explain in simple terms the benefits of joining together as a cooperative,
sure,
as opposed to 4 individual ships.
Sure, absolutely. So, as a co-op, one group touched on it. If one boat has unforeseen mechanical issues, instead of them having to raise $50,000 or $20,000 for a new net, they can pool the resources together to get that boat operating sooner, quicker, and then once that happens, if somebody else has the same issue, they can receive that same benefit. So it's really just sharing the expenses to make sure they can operate and generate money as often as they can.
And they share the profits.
Correct. Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, I'm going to help them answer that question. One of the benefits for the co-op, for the fishermen joining, is the fact that they can rely upon a negotiated continuity in terms of prices. What good does it do for both of our entities, King and Prince, God's Oceans, to benefit the profit if they can't afford to stay in business? So we can lock in a price with the co-op, and that's why we've been such ardent supporters of it. They can lock in a price and know what they're going to get, as opposed to pulling up at a dock and say they were anticipating $225 and there's a glut that week, and someone comes in and says, well, no, I'm going to give you 95 cents a pound. That's the benefit, the economic benefit for the fishermen.
And talk about the single source, that you're the one buyer.
It's also, in terms of the co-op, it's also having one or two buyers who you know are going to take your product consistently whereas you don't have to keep negotiating. You know where your market is, and one of the biggest burdens for fishermen is to have to find a market. If they don't like the price they're given, well, go pound rocks. So that's the benefit for them.
I mean, I think Andy will tell you from an entrepreneurship or an entrepreneur's dream would be if I develop a product, I've got one person to buy everything I make. And that's a huge advantage for this co-op. I know you got something.
First, really good job by everybody. For the research side of things, did you guys look at the wild Georgia caught shrimp, and then also for looking at the premium price that this brand could get, like when you ask the consumers, like would this brand even command a higher price with a story behind it? Did you guys think about asking that question?
I personally went out and asked friends and family in the community that if the Gullah Geechee fisher folk were able to bring shrimp to them, would they pay higher to support a culture so rich in history? And not a single person said no.
Scott, do you have anything you want to add on that? Since you're the branding expert.
Come on, Professor Williamson.
I was just, as she was answering, I was chatting with my colleague here, and the dynamic that could really work here potentially is, one of y'all said it was good insight. Sort of the farther away you get from the coast, right? The higher this price is going to be, and I would even refine that more to say, the higher the average check at the restaurant is, the higher, the bigger the. In other words, there are 7 or 8 restaurants in Metro Atlanta right now that if you could create a way to succinctly tell this story at the bottom of a menu, you could get $75 a plate, right? I mean, so it's not every place, but you don't want to be every place necessarily in this sort of setup. And that's the power of the brand, right? The trick is how you tell, how, where, when, and how much time do you have to tell that story. And that's my old boss used to say that that's what God is in the details on that, right?
So, Professor Williamson, are you saying that the Fisher Folk brand could be the Coca-Cola of shrimp?
No, I would not say that. I would not say that. Ask me in 130 years.
My question is, I was stationed in Bangkok, Thailand, and so I know a little bit about farm, how they raise their shrimp. And I always buy wild shrimp. Always, I didn't care how much they cost. But anyways, if I didn't know we have farm-raised shrimp in the United States, do we?
No, very limited. Actually, we do. Yeah, actually, we have, it's a burgeoning market right now. I believe it's Suncoast, is it? That's in Florida. They are commercializing farm-raised shrimp in the United States. And right now, their model is way too high in terms of what it costs to produce, because actually you can sell wild caught for the same cost as producing it. And he would know, but I mean, he would know as much as, if not more, about from King and Prince. But we do. That's a burgeoning market. It's coming.
Did you want to follow up? Did you want to follow up on that?
Sea Grant, you have anything to say?
Yeah, first of all, say congratulations on completing this project. It's very great. So during the presentation, I think you mentioned regarding the cost. I saw that some of the variables were mixed, and so that made me ask myself. So I think somewhere you said the total cost is 88,000. Yeah, I'm wondering if it's per trip or per year or.
It's per trip.
Per trip.
That's a long trip, right? That's a 3-week trip.
3 weeks, 20,
Oh, okay.
I think that's right.
Just a comment. My name is Alan Booker. I'm one of your county commissioners. And also I work with the Black Business League. We were the ones suggested you all for this project. We knew you could do it. You all proved us right for this presentation today. We're working with Marty and the other shrimpers with this co-op to put together a business plan, hopefully, so that they could get the funding that they need. My question is your discussion about the cultural significance of this. I see you have sustaining centuries of tradition. How was that discussion like among you all? Or did you talk about the significance of this tradition and what it means to this area?
If I may answer that, I personally had never heard of Gomageechee in my entire life. I come from New Jersey, and to my surprise, more people knew about this than I did. Doing the research and learning about the history behind it was truly amazing. I had no idea that these people existed, or that if you try to purchase one of the weaved baskets online now, they can go for thousands of dollars. That just shows you how important it is to preserve this. And whenever looking at the logo, sustaining centuries of tradition, I think that's very important, not only just to those who it belongs to, but those who it affects. Consumers, communities, students. It all should matter to us, and we should want to try our best to help in the aid of preserving it for future generations and to not let it die out.
Commissioner, I think that I saw a change in the students as they talked to the fishermen, and the fishermen explained to them the importance of trying to get younger generations into this shrimping and how it could possibly sustain the community. And I watched them all buy into that, and all of a sudden they started digging more and more. So you'll find in the study a lot of background on Gomageechee because they just kept writing about it. I think Antonio was writing about it, right? Your part was, or was it Kelsey? Kelsey's on the introduction. She had to kind of get her to stop. She just wanted to keep writing about it. So they were amazed that there was something there that they didn't know, and they learned a lot from it.
I'll add to that. So, I don't know any strippers. So it was interesting when we were learning about how you don't just really wake up one day and become a shrimper. So it's very your great-grandfather was, and your grandfather, and then your dad, and then your son, and then, so it was kind of a beautiful thing to see that this really close-knit community just kind of carried this through, and they want to continue doing that. So I kind of feel like that's why everyone was a little bit more invested in it, because we worry about the next generation. So.
Anybody else? You want to say that?
I'm curious, so what's the next step after this project? What are you going to do with the project?
So, as far as the next step of the whole project, that's going to be in somebody else's hands. So,
these are graduated seniors.
My graduated seniors.
Actually, we're working with the co-op. This is what we need to help them to find the funding. There are funding sources that we're preparing the business plan.
And Commissioner, it was the hope of the class that they could develop a document that would be worthy of taking to a bank or taking to someone that would finance it, and they could look at the details and realize the importance of this, and that it could succeed. So hopefully they've done that.
Great job.
I have to get to this lady over here, Marty. I'm sorry. I have to live with her.
Okay. 53 years. I would like to ask you all, do you feel like you have really learned a great deal about this culture that we live so close to, and so many of you don't know anything about it? You feel like now you have a stake in their success?
Yeah.
Yes. 100%.
And also, I'd like to say that one of the great advantages of this type of study and effort from so many different people from different walks of life is that it turns into brainstorming. I'm here today with a good friend of mine who is a former commercial fisherman, and a very good friend of mine, his wife, and she and I are professional shrimp eaters, and we do that at least once a week, and we always look for the Georgia white, and we would love to be looking for a logo similar to that we could order from on our menu. And Pam is an engineer, always looks at the nuts and bolts of things, and she said, leaned over and said to me, well, you know what they really need to do is have maybe some kind of a token woven basket that would accompany this expensive shrimp dinner in Atlanta. And contained in that would be actually a little brochure that explained the story behind the fisher folk. So there's a great advantage in brainstorming. So we have really enjoyed it, and we're going to celebrate tonight with some shrimp.
Miss Virginia wrote the foreword to the study, so that's at the very front of your study, and was a beautiful summary of the Gullah Geechee community.
I wanted to thank all of you students for the work that you have done. We met a little over a month ago, had lunch, we fellowshipped, we brainstormed, and I think it's important for me to tell you what an impact you had on my thinking and on the future of our company, God's Oceans. I fumbled and bumbled my way into this business. I mean, I moved to the coast 5 years ago. I had no idea about the Gullah Geechee fishing tradition. I didn't realize about the shrimp industry, the fishing industry in general. And I say all that to say, you've actually enlightened me about certain things. Professor, telling the story, that's the entire thing for us. And there is a story to tell. And I'm one of these people who believes in the validity of the fishing industry. Yes, it's been under assault for a long time in this country. But the only thing we can really do as human beings is do our best. And hopefully what we do is making a lasting impact. And so from the bottom of my heart, I want to say I'm proud of you, I'm moved, and thank you very much. God bless, and whatever you do.
So just add one quick thing. Thank you very much for a really interesting presentation. And I'd just like to add one comment about your wild versus farmed shrimp argument, which I hopefully you can add to it to give it extra value. One thing that you didn't mention was the environmental impact. And I think an awful lot of people nowadays are interested in not only where is their food coming from, how sustainable it is, and what impact it's having on the environment. And I know that I read not that long ago, and I took it to heart. If you look at the food that has most impact on the planet and that uses the most natural resources, after beef, after lamb, the third one is farmed shrimp. So it's another argument in your favour that to get something that's locally sourced but wild and has come from the ocean and hasn't taken up an awful lot of resources that we don't want to be doing right now is just something else in your favour to promote what's a fantastic initiative and a wonderful idea for the cooperative, and I really, really hope it's successful, and that's something else you can add to the mix to promote it.
Thank you.
I'm going to give you a chance to get up close and personal and talk to the students before we adjourn, but I need to say that not only am I immensely proud of this class, but this class put in over 1,000 hours researching this project. Students don't do that in class anymore. I'm sorry. They don't read anything. They don't. They really put the work in to make this project be professional and find out all the details. So if nobody else has anything, will you give these students a real round of applause? And with that, you can go up and meet them and thank them and talk to them and see what we can sell to King and France, right?
That's why they can be like,
Andy.
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
Yeah.
I think I need an email back.
Right.
Yes. I didn't realize that the project came from your group.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, we've been working with Mike Burns for 7 years.
Okay. Great.
Heather as well.
Can I get one more? Get sure you get
yeah.